Continue now at the top of Daf Tzadi Vav Amud Aleph and Meseches Pesachim. This is Pesachim Daf 96a. Rav Yosef asked on the previous summit, what happens if you have a carbon Pesach, haba b'tumah, and then the people who are tameh eat the emurim? Now, of course, the emurim are supposed to be going on the mizbeach, but they eat it. So the question was, mahu, what's the halacha? Rashi says, mahu mi mechayevi mishum ochlei kodshim b'tumah ilo. Are they chayev because they ate kodshim b'tumah? A separate issue of eating the kodshim b'tumah. Midi ishtri tumas basar, ishtri nami tumas emurin. Do we say from the fact that the tumas basar is okay in this case, maybe the prohibition by tumas emurin would also be lifted? O dilma, or maybe we say no, my ishtri, that which was permitted is permitted, my de lo ishtri, that which was not permitted is not permitted. Rashi says, Ishtri nami tumas emurin de lo mechayev bu mishum tumah, meaning you won't be chayev because of tumah. Now, v'av agav dasire mishum zoris. Now, obviously, a zor is not allowed to eat the emurim, so that's a different problem, because it says v'chol zor lo yochal kodesh. It says a zor is not allowed to eat the hekdesh, but that's a different issue. But the point is there an issue of tumah with the emurim or not? Is that going to be an issue? And the Gemara answers, Amar Rava. Rava says, Michti, let us see. Tumas emurin meheches Rabbi. Where do we even know the idea, the prohibition of eating emurin b'tumah? Mitumas basar, it's learned from tumas basar. How do we know that? Dichsiv, because the pasuk says asher la Hashem. It says that belong to Hashem. L'rabo says emurin, that includes the emurin. The pasuk they're quoting over here, Vanefesh asher tochal basar mizevach hashlomim asher la Hashem v'tumaso olav. So it talks about a person being tameh and eating the basar of the zevach hashlomim. And from Asher La Hashem, we learn out the prohibition applies also to the emurim. So it says Asher La Hashem l'rabo says emurim. So we make the following drasha: Kol hecha de'isei l'tumas basar, isei l'tumas emurim. If there's a prohibition of eating the basar b'tumah, then there's a prohibition of eating the emurim b'tumah. Kol hecha de'lesei l'tumas basar, lesei l'tumas emurim. But if there's no prohibition of eating the basar b'tumah, there's not going to be a prohibition of eating the emurim b'tumah. And the Gemara continues. Boy, Rabbi Zeir asks, Emurei Pesach Mitzrayim hecha akterinu. When it came to the emurim of the carbon Pesach that was brought in Mitzrayim, there was no mizbeach. So where exactly did they burn these emurim? Normally you burn the emurim on the mizbeach. So Amar le Abaya says, Uman leimo lon de lo shaviski avad. So Rashi over here explains, shaviski basar tzli b'shvud. Maybe they just roasted it on a spit. Who says that they didn't just do that? V'yod further, Hatanar of Yosef, Rav Yosef taught, Gimel mizbachos hayusham. There were actually 3 mizbeachs at Pesach Mitzrayim. Ala mashkov v'al shtei hamezuzos. What were the mizbeachs we're talking about? The mashkov on the lintel, v'al shtei hamezuzos, and on the 2 doorposts. In other words, as Rashi over here says, the blood of the carbon Pesach that was actually brought in Mitzrayim, that was placed again on the door frame. And there was no mizbeach for the emurim. They had for the dam, they had some place to place the blood, but they didn't have a place to put the emurim. V'su midya achrina lo hava. They had nothing else. So the idea basically is, at that time, at the time of Pesach Mitzrayim, there was no mizbeach to burn the emurim on, and that was fine. As again, as Abaya said, maybe they made shaviski, maybe they ate those together with the rest of the meat. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Ma bein Pesach Mitzrayim le Pesach Doros. What was the difference between the carbon Pesach that was brought in Mitzrayim and the carbon Pesach that is brought each and every year for generations? Pesach Mitzrayim mecho mi be'asar. First of all, Pesach Mitzrayim was bought on the 10th of Nisan. V'ton hazoh ba'agudas ezo v'al hamashko v'al shtei hamezuzos. You need to use an agudas ezov. You need to use a hyssop branch in order to sprinkle the blood on the lintel and on the doorposts. V'nechol b'chipazon b'layla echad. It was eaten quickly in one night. U'pesach doros nohe kol shiva. And the Pesach of future generations was done for all 7 days. And the Gemara says, Menolan, how do we know this is true, that Pesach Mitzrayim is bought on the 10th of Nisan, and that's not true for the Pesach Doros, because the Pasuk says, Dabro kaladas Yisrael lemor basar lachodesh hazeh v'yikchu. It says on the 10th of this month they should buy. So we darshan zeh mekcho mi ba'asar. This one is bought on the 10th, v'ein Pesach Doros, mekcho mi ba'asar. And the Pesach Doros does not have to be bought on the 10th of Nisan. So the Gemara says, Ela me'at, but if you're going to make that drasha, what about the following pasuk? It says, V'hoyo lochem lemishmeres at arba asar yom lachodesh hazeh. It says that you're going to watch it, that you're going to inspect it, that it shouldn't have a mum until the 14th. So for 4 days you're going to inspect it. We should make the same drasha. Hachinami, here also we should darshan the zeh ton bikur dalid yomim. In this case, you require an inspection of 4 days, kodem shchita, before the shchita. Ve'in acher ton bikor, but when it comes to Pesach Doros, when it comes to other karbanos, you don't need such a bikor. V'atanya, but we learned in a brisa not like that. It says, Ben Bagbag Omer, Ben Bagbag says, Minayin l'tomid sheton bikor dalid yomim kodem shchita. How do you know that when it comes to the carbon tomid, you need to inspect it for 4 days before the shchita? Shenemar, because the pasuk says, Tishmeru lahakriv liba ma'ado. You have to watch it. You have to do a shimor, so you have to inspect it. Ulahalan hu omer v'hayo lachem lemishmeres at arba asar, and it says by the carbon Pesach, by the Pesach Mitzrayim, again the same language of lemishmeres. Ma'lahalan ton bikor dalid yomim kodem shchita. Just like Pesach Mitzrayim, you needed to do an inspection for 4 days before the shchita. Afkan ton bikor dalid yomim kodem shchita. So to over here, you need to do an inspection 4 days before the shchita. So you see, on the contrary, you see, we're learning out from v'hayo lachem lemishmeres that other karbanos as well require the bikor dalid yomim. So the Gemara says, Shani hasam dichsiv tishmeru. It's different over there because by the carbon tamid it says the word tishmeru. So you're right, in general we would have learned out that which applies by Pesach Mitzrayim does not apply by other karbanos, but the word tishmeru tells us that is not the case. And the Gemara says this is not only true by the carbon tamid, it's true by the Pesach L'Doros as well. Well, Pesach Doros nam yaksiv, and by Pesach L'Doros it says, you're going to do this avoda in this month, and the drush is you call avodas chodesh zeh kazeh, that all the avodas should be the same. So this too should require a bikor dalid yomim. So the Gemara still asks, so what does this hazeh come to exclude? If we're now saying that the din of bikor that applied by Pesach Mitzrayim applies by the carbon tamid, applies by the Pesach Doros, so ela hu hazeh lemute Pesach sheni techavase. Rather, the Gemara says the word hazeh is to exclude carbon Pesach by Pesach Sheni, meaning by Pesach Sheni there's no halacha that you have to do a bikor dalid yomim. And Rashi says, Ela hazeh degave bikor lamali, what do we need the word hazeh by the inspection for? Lemute Pesach Sheni mi bikor arba yomim, to say that by Pesach Sheni you don't need this halacha of inspection for 4 days, techavase, because that is similar meaning, to have a yom echad kemo Pesach Mitzrayim. Pesach Sheni has a certain similarity to Pesach Mitzrayim, it's just 1 day. So again, we saw a previous daf also, you exclude things that are in the same category. Now Rashi just points out, what about the word hazeh by buying it on the 10th of Nisan? There we came to exclude Pesach Doros. So al karchach lemute Pesach Doros, so that particular hazeh has to be excluding Pesach Doros. The ilu lemute sheni lo itzrich, because you don't even need it to exclude Pesach Sheni. Da'imit mehai hazeh degabe bikor umimit mi bikor arba yamim. So once you already have the exclusion of inspection for 4 days, so it's also going to exclude the fact that you don't have to buy it from the 10th. The tarvayim mishtami me'ahukra, that both of those halachas are excluded from this pasuk. Till mishmeres mashma bikor umekach, because mishmeres is mashma, you do the inspection for 4 days and you buy it at a certain time period a little earlier. V'ido chazeh memayit Pesach Doros mimekach baser. That's why the hazeh is coming to say that Pesach Doros does not need to be bought on the 10th. Avol mi bikor arba yomim lo mimitale. But when it comes to bikor arba yomim, Pesach Doros is not excluded. You do have to do an inspection for 4 days. Im lo hifrishu mi ba'aser yivaker shnayim v'shlosha taloyim mi ba'aser uv'shah shchita yigach echad me'an. Meaning, let's say you didn't separate for the purpose of carbon Pesach on the 10th. You didn't separate anything in particular, so you take 2 or 3 sheep from that point 4 days early, and you begin to inspect them, and at the time of Shechita you take any one of them that does not have a blemish. But the Gemara says if you can take the word hazeh and say that only applies, whatever halacha it's talking about only applies by Pesach Mitzrayim and not by Pesach Doros, ela me'ata, but according to that, it says that they eat the meat on this particular night. They ate the carbon Pesach Mitzrayim on that night. Are you going to say Pesach Mitzrayim is eaten at night, but Pesach Doros is not? So to that the Gemara says, Amar Kra, the pasuk says, again, you do the same avoda, and it is the same, it is eaten at night. So Ela hazeh lamali, so the Gemara says, okay, so what are you going to do with the hazeh? So the Gemara answers, L'chid Rebbe Lazar ben Azariah of Rebbe Akiva. That's to teach us the halacha of Rebbe Lazar ben Azariah and Rebbe Akiva. And Rashi says, L'chid Rebbe Lazar ben Azariah of Rebbe Akiva, B'parakama de brachos nemar kan balayla hazeh, v'nemar lahalon v'yavarti beretz Mitzrayim balayla hazeh. It says the words balayla hazeh over here, and it also says that by Makas Bechoros, it says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu went through Mitzrayim balayla hazeh. That leads over there in brachos to a discussion about until what time a person is allowed to eat the carbon Pesach. And the Gemara says Elamayata, but still according to that, it says that somebody who's an orel, somebody who does not have a bris milah, is not allowed to eat it. Again, make the same drasha. Say only when it comes to Pesach Mitzrayim an orel is a problem, but Pesach Doros is not a problem. So again, the Gemara says, Amar Kravya Varita. No, again, the service is the same in this regard between Pesach Mitzrayim and Pesach Doros. Ela bo lamali. So again, the Gemara asks, what do you do with the word bo? So it means bo eino ochel. What it means is he doesn't eat it. Avalu ochel b'matzo morer. But it means that he does eat the matzah and morer. Meaning, even though the Korban Pesach is not eaten by an orel, the halacha, or the mitzvah of matzah and morer, does apply to an orel. Similarly, the Gemara asks, Ela me'ata, but again, according to your reasoning, ben nechor lo yochal bo, it says a ben nechor. Ben nechor, Rashi says, refers to someone who's shenisnachru ma'asav li'avav shabashamayim. He might be Jewish, but his ways are foreign to his Father in heaven. His ways are foreign to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So it says, ben nechor lo yochal bo. It says a ben nechor cannot eat the Korban Pesach. Are you going to say a ben nechor doesn't eat Pesach Mitzrayim, but he does eat Pesach Ledoros? Amar Kra, again the Gemara answers, it says in the pasuk v'yavarita, it's the same service. Ella bo lamali. So again, what does the pasuk bo come to teach us? The Gemara answers, bo hamoras das poselas. Somebody who rebels against the religion when it comes to Korban Pesach, that's a problem. However, vein hamoras das poselas b'truma, that does not become a problem by truma. If a kohen rebels against HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he's not necessarily pasul in truma. V'yitzrich lemichtav orel, v'yitzrich lemichtav ben nechor, and the Gemara says that it needs to write an orel is problem by Korban Pesach, and it needs to write ben nechor is a problem. Because of Rachmana orel mishum demoyes, because if it only said orel, an orel is considered disgusting. Aval ben nechor lo moyes say malo, but by a ben nechor not disgusting, I would say it's not a problem. So tzricha you needed to say ben nechor. V'yashmin and ben nechor, if it only said ben nechor mishum dein libo lashamayim, because his heart is not towards heaven. Aval orel, but somebody who's uncircumcised, the libo lashamayim, his heart might still be towards heaven. Malo, I would say maybe it's not a problem. So tzricha, that's why you need both of these psukim. And the Gemara asks further, Elamayata toshav v'sacher lo yochel bo. It says a toshav and a sacher cannot eat the Korban Pesach. Hachanami debo eino ochel aval ochelu b'Pesach Doros. Are you going to say a toshav and a sacher are not allowed to eat the Korban Pesach of Mitzrayim, but they can eat Pesach Doros? So again, Amar Kra, the pasuk says v'yavarita. No, the service is the same. Ela bo lamali, but again, so why does it say bo? Again, the same idea. Bo hamoras das poselas. Only when it comes to Korban Pesach, there's a problem of rebelling against HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Vein hamoras das poselas b'truma, but that is not an issue when it comes to truma. And on this issue of toshav and sacher, Rashi over here notes v'lo garsinon ela me'ata toshav v'sacher v'chula. Rashi takes out this line about toshav v'sacher not eating Korban Pesach. Da toshav v'sacher kuli kra yiseiru, because the truth is, Rashi says this pasuk of toshav v'sacher is all extra. The toshav v'sacher ochel b'Pesach, the toshav zekonai kesef kinyan olam v'nirtza. He says the toshav and a sacher do eat Korban Pesach. A toshav refers to an Eved Ivri who's an Eved forever, who's a nirtza. V'sacher is the Eved Ivri hakonai kinyan shanim. Sacher refers to an Eved Ivri that's just for a period of years. But Tarvayu Yisrael Ma'al Yaninu, they're both full-fledged Jews. V'achli b'Pesach, they eat Korban Pesach. Kedamin b'Yavamas b'Orel, that's in a Gemara in Yavamas. Ukroya Seiruhu, that pasuk is considered an extra pasuk. Umufne l'gzeir shava, v'nemar toshav v'sacher b'Pesach, v'nemar toshav v'sacher b'Truma. It's used for gzeir shava between Korban Pesach and Truma. Kedim afarish le'hasam, that's explained over there. V'aydi dechasvei kasabodi day, that's why it's written. U'leloshen asvarim lo yadana my shinuya dekamashani bo. And Rashi says, according to what we have in our Gemara, the text that we just read, Rashi says, I don't understand the answer to the Gemara. Hamoras das poselis. It talks about the fact that rebelling against the religion is a psul when it comes to Korban Pesach, but not Truma. My shayach hamoras das. What are you talking about? Hamoras das. Gabe toshav v'sacher or Yisrael Malyaninu. These are regular Jews. What does that even mean? Furthermore, this drush is already made from the word bo by ben nechor. Umalto soaz abaylim yochal bo v'lo molasavdo lo yochaliyu. The milas zachar v'avad of makeves b'Pesach. We say the halacha is, we learn out from there that if a person's servants and the people of the person's household don't have bris milah, that holds back from eating Korban Pesach. Im yeshlo ben ha'omid lomo. Let's say you have a son who needs to get a bris milah or eved, or an eved in such a situation. Eno ochel Pesach ad sheyimo losam. Tichsiv himo lo kol zachar v'yaz yirkav lasoso. So the point of the matter is is that this entire line here of Ela Me'ata Tosha V'Sachir, Rashi does have difficulty with. And the Gemara asks further, Ela Me'ata, but if you're going to darshan from the word bo, the pasuk says, Umalta oso az yochal bo, if a person gives bris milah to those in one's household, then he can eat Karban Pesach. Hachanami debo eno ochel aval ochel Pesach Doros. So you're going to say that halacha only applies to Pesach Mitzrayim. By Pesach Doros, it doesn't matter if the people in one's household has a bris milah. Again, the Gemara answers, Amar Krav V'Avarata. The pasuk says V'Avarata. The service in Pesach Mitzrayim is the same as Pesach Doros. Ela bo ulamali. So what is the word bo coming to exclude? And the Gemara answers, Bo mila zachar v'avodav ma'keves. When it comes to Karban Pesach, if the males in somebody's household or the servants in somebody's household don't have bris milah, then it's a problem by Karban Pesach. However, vein mila zachar v'avodav ma'keves b'truma. That's not a problem when it comes to truma. This halacha that you have to have bris milah for the people in one's household is not going to be ma'akev somebody from eating truma. The Gemara asks further, Ela Me'ata, but again, if you're asking these questions, T'chsiv v'yetzem lo yishbaru bo, again it says, by Pesach Mitzrayim, you can't break the bones. Hachanami devo eno shover, aval shover b'Pesach Doros. Are you going to say this halacha does not apply by Pesach Doros? You're allowed to break the bones of Pesach Doros. Again, Amar Kra, the pasuk says, V'Avarata, it says V'Avarata, this din does apply by Pesach Doros. Ela bo, lamali, what does the word bo come to teach us in this particular case? Bo b'kosher v'lo b'pasul. Means to tell us the halacha breaking the bones applies by a kosher Karban Pesach, does not apply by a pasul Karban Pesach. It says again, you're not allowed to eat the Pesach Mitzrayim if it's not fully cooked, if it's raw. Is that true only by Pesach Mitzrayim, not by Pesach Doros? Amar Kra, the pasuk says, V'Avarata, again the halachas are the same. Ela mimenu lamali, what do we need mimenu for? L'chedirabba, Amar Rabbi Yitzchak. The Gemara answers, it's for the halacha that is taught by Rabba in the name of Rabbi Yitzchak. Rashi over here explains, Kedirabba, Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, V'Perek ha'orel, Nemar mimenu b'Pesach, V'Nemar mimenu b'Maiser. It says the word mimenu by both Pesach and by Maiser, Malahalan orel aser b'Pesach, Afkan orel aser b'Maiser. Just like an orel is aser by Karban Pesach, an orel is aser by Maiser as well. Then it said, V'nechal b'chipazon, it's eaten b'chipazon, and the Gemara says, which means it's eaten quickly. The Gemara says, Menolan, how do we know this? The Amar Kra, because the pasuk says, V'achaltem oso b'chipazon, it says you have to eat it quickly. Oso nechal b'chipazon, meaning when it comes to Pesach Mitzrayim, it has to be eaten quickly. V'ein acher nechal b'chipazon. But that's not true by Pesach Doros. And then the Mishnah said, Pesach Doros noe kol shiva v'chulu. It said Pesach Doros is all 7. What does that mean? Amai koi, what's that going on? Ilema Pesach, if you think we're going on Karban Pesach, Pesach kol shiva mi'ika. Is there such a thing as eating Karban Pesach for 7 days? And we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Tzadi Vav Amud Beis.